So one of the things I do here on my channel is I talk about the way businesses are operating in the entertainment sphere. That's most specifically film, television, things that are like that, streaming, and also some of the physical activities that you might do at like theme parks and, the distractions that are our entertainment sphere and the businesses that operate to serve those needs. The problem is that when you analyze things in this way and you see trends, you have no way not to see those. You just continue to see them in other elements of the business, especially when you get to things that are supposed to be journalism. Now, there's one journalist website, I'm going to call that gaming journalism website, that is really, I guess, not served well by its staff. In fact, they put them at risk on the regular and maybe putting them in grave danger. They're also part of a group of media websites that are supposed to be informing people about the things that are on inside of these industries, and they are continuing to shed pieces of these entities. And there's a reason for that. Today, we're going to speak directly about Kotaku and one of their authors that is, well, now being called out by a gaming development company that has a pretty big following and a pretty decent sized game. Don't know what I'm talking about. Well, I'm talking about Kotaku and a writer that may have just set them up for fire, if not a fire sale. Anyway, let's get right to it. We've got the headline right here. Farm Folks CEO claims Kotaku's Alyssa Mercante intentionally misrepresented his comments, and he did not imply to describe gamers as incels. Well, that's good. This story can be found over on That Park Place, written by John F. Trent, and you probably can assume it's very well researched. And hey, I went and did some of my own, so we'll be looking at some of that here in just a moment. For now, let's look over this article and figure out what exactly has been happening. Shall we? Yeah. So, Alex Koshelikov, I think is how his name is said, the CEO of Creativo, the development company behind Farm Folks, claims Kotaku's Alyssa Mercante misrepresented his comments, and he did not imply that gamers were incels. Koshlikov's, there we go, that's probably how you say it, claim comes after he did an interview with Mercante after Farm Folks deleted a post inquiring about their game's physics for female characters and then apologizing for it. I don't know why they even reacted. I don't know why they apologized, and I don't know why they deleted it. Those are all separate issues, but let's deal with the issues at hand. See, on April 27th, Farm Folks posted on X, "All right, folks, it's time for some serious game development talk. We're tinkering with character physics in Farm Folks. Burning question. Which version has the perfect breast jiggle physics?" Now, in all honesty, this was a pretty innocent question. Only people that are looking for trouble are going to find it with something like that. There's no need to have some crazy reaction to this question. It shared 3 different videos with different physics for a female character. A follow-up post stated, "Does anyone want to see what 150% looks like?" Well, that may have been where they went wrong, but I mean, I'm sure many of the game's fans would like to see, anywhere around 50%. But moving on from there, they received some backlash from DEI consultancy Black Girl Gamers. Well, of course they did. And so Farm Folks deleted their original post and issued an apology. It wrote, "We like to address a recent post where we came to our community asking for feedback. Our intent is always to connect and grow with our players, but it's clear that we really missed the mark on our recent community feedback posts. For that, we sincerely apologize." They continued, "We had received concerns about the female player model's breast physics in the past, and we thought we should ask the community what felt more appropriate or natural," which we'll hear again in a moment from a statement from the game developer. "Unfortunately, this crossed a line. We try to foster a welcoming community, and the post and subsequent Replies made many of our community members uncomfortable and alienated. I'm not sure why, but maybe that was true. The reply made about 150% physics, well, there it is, was also inappropriate, and we apologize for that. We're taking necessary steps to learn from this, and we're committed to doing better moving forward. Well, the problem is you went to the wrong place to try to do better. We want everybody to feel included in the game's development, and we'll be reevaluating how best to interact with the community, and as well as how to ask for feedback from the community in the future. So there you are. In an interview with Kotaku, there's your second mistake, or third mistake, Mercante then reported that Koshlikov, I got it that time, informed her, you have to be a very poor person to kind of sexualize this. Like the internet is full of sex right now. There's some crazy things that you can find if you're having problems with our characters, like look for help. Maybe go and date a woman or something like that. Because this is not our goal. We don't want to attract people that are attracted to only these body parts. That kind of makes sense. So Hat on Glasses went out on X and says, Farm Folks Low Info CEO implies that gamers who won't cave to the censorship mob, cancel pigs, and corrupt journos are incels. Whoa, wow. Mercante played him and now is dragging him for the sucker he is on her handle. My goodness. So Koshlikov responded, Hi, this is not what I implied, and it's misrepresented here. I meant that if you're against natural breast movement, the statement applies to you. We don't want exaggerations, and at the same time, would love to have natural, elegant motion in our characters' bodies, which makes a whole lot of sense. Quality reply. He did here responded this way in Twitter. You can find this; it's still out there. So Koshlikov would elaborate in another response to user official Ateres. He stated, my comment was actually directly directed towards the people who have issues with natural body motion in our game, not towards the people who appreciate it. I think it was intentionally misrepresented. And you know what? Official Ateres, if that's how you say the name, Ateres, you're stuck in a tough spot. I really think it would have been beneficial for you guys to take a step back and breathe before even responding to this controversy. Because of it, it was my first time hearing of your game, and I was interested in playing. I think many feel the same way. Something like that, I think, I was extrapolating there. But he said, or Koleshkov stated, it might be because of my limited English vocabulary, and I thought I expressed myself clearly. I feel like it's misrepresented intentionally. Of course, somebody else hits him, this Don Twory. But yeah. So Koshlikov did tell Mercante he had no problems with the breast physics and expected to have it in the game. The original idea was, we spiced it up with a joke, which was the problem. But the general idea was to make sure we were doing it right. Because our game is very immersive. It's not that we're fixated on women's parts. Our entire character body is full of technology. To me, breast movement is not controversial since it's human biology. I couldn't agree more. Regarding elegant, tasteful physics implementation, I still think that we're going to do it. Of course you are. Especially since you got the positives from the vast majority of people and the negative from a very tiny, small portion. So, Alex Koshlikov finally responds to other people saying, thank you for sharing your opinion. I'm not censoring my vision. We're going to have character body physics in the game. Our apology was for bad wording. Well, there you go. Now, this, of course, is all in response to this terrible article over at Kotaku. And they did add this word in brackets, or is this brackets or bracers? Anyway, update. A bizarre post from an in-development indie game has sparked controversy and questions. It wasn't a bizarre post. The guy was pretty clear about what he was asking for. What of this do you appreciate? Right? He didn't turn it up to 150%. The joke was a joke. It was clearly a joke that was made afterwards. So on April 29th, yada, yada, breaking down the story. So as you go through this story written by your favorite, Alyssa Mercante, you'll find out that these different games physics for this young lady's bosom exist in the game, trying to keep it within what human anatomy would normally do. So, and this is overblown statement here and an opinion. The responses were less than positive, clearly charged by the culture war currently raging in games that's seen a 50-something former... Oh, see? Going right after who? Grums. Blizzard employee rallying people against community managers. No. The first shots fired at community managers took out one of my friends, Carol Lynn. And you kind of helped promote that, if I remember correctly, Miss Mercante. And if not, well, you're doing it now. So, of course, people are responding to Pokemon Go changes. A narrative design company, well, actually multiple of them, DEI Inc., right? Which is, Black Girl Gamers and Sweet Baby Inc. and all of that, right? You don't like the fact that they're being called out for what they do, why they do it, and basically you're wanting to support the neo-Marxist movement. Oh, and by the way, your tattoos kind of spell out what you're about there, Miss Mercante. Anyway, and the perceived censoring of Shift Up's new action RPG Stellar Blade. Perceived? No, it's fairly clear. Again, this is a whole lot of spin and framing. This is terrible. Terrible writing. So after being tagged, Creativo founder Alex Koshlikov joined the conversation. Sorry, guys, I'm going through morning calls. Let me check what's happening here, and I'll respond. And he went back and forth for the few people. And he apologized several times. Okay. He says, I'm not pretending. I'm explaining the reasoning behind this. Our goal is not to over-sexualize our characters. It's the opposite. The goal is to achieve realistic physics. So he basically broke it all down. Anyway, so as you go through this article, you just find more and more of the spin factor here. And additional problems. She is really just a terrible, terrible partisan, and she puts all of that into her writing. Sorry, I was trying to find a better word to say there. That's funny. I stop here. The issue is political. Some groups of people don't agree with this, and some people have no limits, he said. I think we're in the crossfire, and the question goes to if the post was intentional or not. Like, no, not really. We're not using any kind of gross tactics where it's engaging our community. That's stupid, right? I've been hearing a little bit about I don't really know the game, the Blade game. I've seen the screenshots of the protagonists, and they're crazy to me. It's not even almost fitting to the game. I'm not sure what he's speaking to specifically. He admits to have an English issue. Anyway. And here it is. If you're having problems with our characters, look for help. Maybe go and date a woman or something like that, because this is not our goal. We don't want to attract people that are attracted to only these body parts. And she's using that as a pull-out quote. Interesting. So as you go through this, and the article finishes up, she writes this. Not long after we concluded our interview, I was told that one person who was speaking out against the boob physics was kicked off from the Farm Folks Discord, ostensibly after asking about past Kickstarter campaigns. We're not banning one if they have questions or constructive criticism, Koshlikov said. Here's the update. This is on 5/2 in the evening. After several posts of Koshlikov's were sent to me in which he stated that one of the above above quotes misrepresented him, I reached out via Discord DM and asked what he felt was misrepresented. Below is the complete quote from the original conversation, unedited, as well as his statement. So here it is. To the politics where it's like there's almost no way of winning any of them, right? But like, I don't really want to win any of them. In a way, if you don't understand and if you're being radical about it, there's not much we can do about that. But the message with the game to like the fans that would like to enjoy the game. So the goal is properly represent themselves in game. We're not aiming for over exaggerations. We want to be delicate and elegant with this, right? So we want to have it like some immersive elements in our games, but we're not for some goofy, disrespectful things like over exaggerating things that can offend. And as I told my team, I was like, even like offending or hurting like 5 people in our community base, we have no problems apologizing for that. It's kind of soft, but I guess, man, she muddled this all together, didn't she? Start here. And if again, I just feel like, of course, it doesn't need to be over exaggerated, but it can potentially exist in the game. At the same time, we have no problems like disabling it, but I feel like there's a little bit of loss in the way that, like, again, I don't think there's any kind of sexual emotions attached to them, right? Like, it's just like you have to be a very, very poor person to kind of sexualize that. Was like, the internet is full of sex right now. There's some crazy things that you can find. Then if you're having a problem with our characters, like, I feel like that's like, look for help. Like, I think like maybe go date a woman or some things like, or something like that, because it's like, this is not our goals. Like, we don't want to distract people. Like, are attracted to only these body parts. And we wanted to make it immersive and nice, kind of, because it's hard to use the word realistic, because like people will call us, your game is not realistic, but it's stylistically realistic. And always, like, we're paying attention to little details like realism, but it's stylized, you know? It's like, so we're trying to do realistic, like, character is reacting things. Yeah, you can tell there's a English issue. So Koshlikov said, "Hi, Alyssa. I strongly believe that this sentence was taken out of context to support a specific narrative or goal." Well, based on the way she expressed it, I don't know. Pick 'em. I just know there's a whole lot of spin in this article towards a particular narrative. It seems to be the norm for Kotaku. This is a feature article, by the way, and this also increased the length of their page view, which wasn't doing so hot. Every once in a while, this crazy person writes a, razor's edge article, and it gets a lot of people looking at it. But let's move on and take a look at some things that I clipped for the context. So apparently she recorded the whole interaction, and he asked specifically, "Could you be so kind and share with me recording?" That's one of the last things she said. So I'm going to keep reading it. "People are harassing me because my point is misrepresented as well." Alyssa asks, "I want you to tell me what part of the above quote you believe should be included in that section to properly represent you. Or if you'd like me to use what you said earlier, it's more linked to people who got upset that we had natural breast movement in the game, but they saw it as sexual intent. It is not. I mentioned to you, even though we can disable it, it will be a loss because I think in the way we're doing it, it's natural and sensitive. The goal is for players to properly represent themselves in games. We're not aiming for over exaggerations. The goal is to make it very elegant and very sensitive to women and their bodies. You have to be a very poor person to kind of sexualize this. Like, the internet is full of sex right now. And she just basically goes on with what the quote was in the piece. And Alex specifically cites his issue right here. You're cutting most important part of it, I think. I probably didn't choose the best words to express it. I didn't intend to hurt anyone or call names, but I think it's being misinterpreted this way. And Alyssa Mercanti says, so you want me to include that statement? Are you denying that you said what I've quoted? Is that what I said? That I'm denying it? I'm explaining what I meant. Well, let's see what else. So Alex followed up, said, I thought you said you'll post my clarification. And obviously Alyssa Mercante posted it on Twitter. And she says, your statement is at the end of the piece. Is it in your tweet? Because I don't see it there. My tweet is not the piece. It's in the piece. See, she doesn't want to make it public so she can be called out easily by people like myself. And finally, we end up here. Says, hi, Alyssa, you've been using me as a tool against your nemesis, Grums. And I'm not sure if it was intentional or accidental. You misrepresented a few of my points. In our dialogue, you agreed that it's all cool to have women's breast movement in games. You reached me for clarification yourself and then refused to share it with your readers on X. And that's all true. At least to this point in time. But anyway, I captured the entire article like I often do so that I have it forever and ever. And nobody can change it. So, yeah. Look, at this point, I feel like people that are paying attention to Kotaku or any of these other games journalism sites, you're getting what you ask for when you go there. I mean, the vast majority of people who look at Kotaku are male. They're probably not there for something that Alyssa writes. There's some really interesting people that work for Kotaku. I would encourage you to take a look at some of the recent video presentations they have pinned to the front page. But I'm more interested in what you think. I mean, I think there's a disconnect between game journalists and their normal person, the normies, right? The people that just are there to play games. You know, one of the reasons I think Kotaku made that big push to get to the game guides thing is the same reason they tried to get people to write sports articles for the sports offering that they used to have. Not Kotaku, but they had another entity that just did sports. And boy, did they screw up and started writing about politics, because everybody, it seems, somebody like Alyssa Mercante and others, they're not there to write about games. They're there to write about politics and culture war and stuff like that. And it leaks out in everything that she writes, or at least a lot of the things that she writes. I don't want to overstate what she does, but she's engaged daily with the public in a constant battle for what her politics are, and not really about the games. In fact, I would say most game sites now aren't really about the games. I think John did a good job in covering this in his article and his previous article, which actually described farm folks, appearing to back off and bend the knee. These companies are going to learn that's just the wrong way to go. We're starting to see real replacements show up, and games that have been appreciated, we're starting to see those show up. Although I will say that Helldivers 2 is now drawn into controversy because of Sony, and people outside of Sony don't want to be governed by their ridiculous terms of service. Sony's putting themselves in a bad place right now. They're putting themselves at odds. And people are turning off for a number of reasons the game PSN, PS Network. They're getting away from any memberships and things like that. That's Sony's driving away customers. That's dumb. And at a time when you've got a bunch of new games coming into the marketplace that are really going to need some support by fans. I mean, the new college football offering and some other things. There are going to be people that just don't want to engage with that. They may not buy games because of that. I don't know if you want to whittle down your world that small. Right now, I think you'd be wanting to take everybody you possibly can, which is probably why PlayStation didn't have any policy in place that anybody can recall or note at the time that they signed up to play Helldivers 2. They were not barricaded from playing that game. So people spent an enormous amount of money getting in on the ground floor to play that, and now you're dragging in a new condition. This is the problem with the subscription model, folks. Don't fall for it in any aspect of your life. Anyway, I've talked long enough. What do you think about this farm folks controversy now that it seems that Alyssa Mercante may have been intentionally misrepresenting the comments of the CEO? Do you think that outlets like Kotaku are kind of a scourge now because of how they report things? Because it's all politically biased and clearly agenda-driven. And wouldn't you like to just know what's going on in games rather than stuff like this? Had she just reported the facts, I don't think anybody would have a problem here. And I think the CEO would have been able to maybe clarify more. But if you look at her response back to the CEO in her final response, just kind of deal with it. I'm not here to make you happy. Well, teaches you to ever talk to Kotaku again, doesn't it? I think other CEOs are going to take a clue that Kotaku may not be a company to talk to. And I think they're going to start figuring out that just because the money's cheaper, falling in line with some of these demands from these wackadoos, these crazy wackadoodle groups, isn't worth it, because it tears up your company and it drives entire game studios out of business. And that's happened more than a few times in recent memory. Let me know what you think, though, down in the comments section below. I truly appreciate it. If you think that you want me to cover more subjects like this, I'd like to know that as well. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya.